Hello. This talk gives you some guidance on using personal reflection as a tool for your personal and professional development. This is a process I've used for myself throughout my career, as well as with clients, students, and supervisees. The handout that accompanies this talk provides additional detail, as well as the references for the literature I cite. As practitioners, we are committed to developing our professional self throughout our career. For example, I see clinical supervision and consultation as therapy for this emerging professional self. The goal is increasing our autonomy and independence, always recognizing that we do not achieve professional perfection or completion and will require help periodically throughout our career. As we mature professionally, we develop our own personal theory of personality and change. One guide for me is the American Psychological Association model of evidence-based practice, integrating research, my experience and developing clinical expertise with the unique perspective of each client. I encourage you to move beyond accepting any theory or research and instead striving for a personal psychological theory that is grounded and validated in your experience. I believe a psychological theory works best when we have seen it work in our own life and in our work with others. I resonate with the core constructs of individual psychology and have used them in the construction of my personal treatment philosophy. I believe a definition of mental health is essential to providing effective treatment, and the individual psychology construct of Gemeinschaftsgefühl, with its focus on a connection and a contribution to the welfare of humanity, creates an excellent foundation for my work. I come at life based on my values, and the individual psychology values of equality and respect fit well with my experience. I work from a systems perspective, moving from an interpersonal level of analysis to a social and political level. The heart of what I want to work with is human relations. I have grown comfortable with the individual psychology constructs of goal-directed movement and compensation for felt inferiorities because I have seen them work in my life and in the lives of my clients. Thinking about how the client sees the world, appreciating their uniqueness, and understanding behavior as based on belief is just common sense to me. It feels right. I am growing in my appreciation of the impact of the individual psychology construct of the creative self. It seems to echo the appreciation of the uniqueness of each of us. Finally, I really like the notion of soft determinism. It allows for each person to be a unique expression of our creative self and implies the developing of a template or schema of apperception as we mature. David Kolb developed a model of experiential learning that serves as a foundation for my thoughts about the use of reflection in learning and maturation. He described a four-step process beginning with a careful description of an experience, followed by a reflection on that experience. You may notice some differences between how you saw things then, at the time of the experience, and how you see them now, at the time of the reflection. This reflecting merges into thinking, including a consideration of how others may have experienced the event. This leads, in turn, to action, trying something new. The language of a reflection is more personal than other forms of academic writing. Using the first-person I language is essential. I also find it helpful to organize my reflection with these four stages, writing a bit on each of them. Several individual psychology constructs can be helpful in this model of the reflection process. In describing an experience, keep in mind the notion that behavior is both movement and is social in nature. try to focus on some psychological movement within the experience you are describing. The reflecting and thinking stages are enhanced for me with a consideration of the individual psychology values, equality and respect. I have always made liberal use of Bob Powers' question, what would I have to believe to choose this particular line of movement? I have also found that a strong dose of the courage to be imperfect, humility, is essential to a fruitful reflection. Finally, I believe that something is truly learned when it is put into action, and this often requires courage. Trying new behaviors out can strengthen changes in belief. Kook and Holst expand the Kolb model by seeing reflection as playing a mediating role between experience and learning. We can have experiences and not learn anything from them. The purpose of reflection is creating knowledge that is grounded in our experience. As we engage in this reflection process, it is important to remember the context of the experience being considered. We should be suspicious of universal learnings and of learnings that cast ourselves as neutral. Structured reflection is one way of making sense of our experience and of learning from it. This involves a deeper kind of honesty and taking responsibility for our actions and our beliefs. I believe these insights are a powerful foundation for our developing theory of human functioning. As a matter of fact, we need to be on the lookout for all of the cognitive biases that we are vulnerable to as human beings. Consider, for example, the confirmation bias, the tendency to overvalue data and observations that fit with our existing beliefs. It is easily enacted as we reflect on our experience. One challenge and reward in the reflecting process is identifying the multiple varieties of our private logic, things that we have come to believe. This allows us to choose lines of movement that are more in line with the needs of the situation. I have been guided in my reflections by several strategies from individual psychology that I have found to be particularly helpful. I continue to gain new insights from a review of my approach to the tasks of life and a reconsideration of my experience in my family constellation. I find increased clarity each time I reread Birnbaum's 1936 article on the principles for a healthy conduct of life, especially his admonition to take full responsibility for myself. Maintaining a balance between my strengths and my mistakes has helped me avoid getting stuck in negative and self-critical loops of thinking. I encourage you to look at the connections focusing technique that Amy Lou and Betty Lou Bettner describe in their 1993 article. It has helped me break through more than one dilemma when nothing else seemed to work. Finally, I have used a 3A sequence numerous times. When I become aware of a mistaken line of movement, I create an answer or an affirmation that responds to the mistake, and then a new line of movement based on the affirmation.